You just don't care, no. I don't wanna play, baby, I'm just fine. I don't need you anymore.
Content information and the link to the written version of this story, please check the description down below. This story is based on Arachne, the Spider Woman, the Greek myth. If you would like to support this channel and me, please consider checking my details in the description down below, where you'll find my Cash App, my GoFundMe to help support my transition, and my email to receive information about my commissions. Sorry, I don't know why I'm laughing. But anyway, let's get on with the video. Let's get on with this story. On the longest day of the year, during the festival of Letha, a small spider named Arachne was busy weaving her 50th web of the day. Day in and day out, she would weave. It was what she loved most in the world. Her webs were as delicate as lace and as intricate as the small brush strokes on her fine vase. Her cave was so full of them that no human would dare enter it. Arachne hated being feared, so to make herself feel better, she would do what she did best: weave. It was midday, and a little spider looked out from her cave and watched as the villagers prepared for the enormous bonfire. Arachne longed to join them more than ever, for this was her last summer. The spider's view hindered by the vision of a beautiful human, or at least a human-like woman. Arachne was so frightened she scurried deeper into her cave. The woman inspected the spider's work. "Pretty, I suppose. Come out, little weaver. This is not how you greet a deity." Arachne poked her head out from a narrow crack in the cave wall. "Sol?" she asked of a timid disposition. "No, not that hothead. You be in the presence of Athena." Arachne emerged into view and bowed her head to the goddess. "Athena, but this isn't your day," the goddess scoffed. "Every day is my day, little gorsorb. I heard your thoughts and thought I'd offer my help." The spider looked on with skepticism. "I have an offer for you, my 8-legged friend. I've seen the way you weave, and I admire your style, but let's make one thing clear." The goddess turned away with a dramatic flair. "No arachnid in all the universes can weave better than I can. I'll grant you your wish. I'll make the humans no longer fear you if..." Arachne's eyes widened in anticipation. "You can weave something so miraculous that even I can't replicate it." Athena stepped back to inspect Arachne's reaction. The spider looked out, imagining herself among the villagers. "I'll do it. I accept the challenge." Athena smiled with smugness dotted all over her face. "Very well. You have until sunset." And with that, the goddess vanished. Arachne weaved non-stop all afternoon, darting back and forth around her cave, filling every crevice she could find. The weaver incorporated her old weavings into her new one, hoping that this design would be so complicated and beautiful that Athena wouldn't even know where to try to copy it. She finished just as the sun began sinking in the west. Its glow danced along every individual silken thread, illuminating Arachne's greatest achievement. Athena appeared before her. The goddess's eyes lay upon the design, and her mouth fell open in awe. She shook her head. "Is that all you could come up with?" Arachne's heart sank in her abdomen. Athena transformed herself into a golden spider and used 2 nearby trees to weave a replica of Arachne's design. Arachne hated to admit it, but Athena was succeeding. Her pattern was an almost exact copy of Arachne's. Athena stopped weaving and reverted to a human form. "No arachnid can outweave me," she laughed as she admired her work. "Actually," Arachne scurried over to Athena's replica. "You're missing part of the design," Athena responded with a roll of the eyes. "I don't think so." Arachne looked over with a serious expression. She motioned for Athena to follow her into the cave, where she pointed out one element of the design right out the back. Impossible! Athena gasped. How did I not see that? She sank to the ground, mortified. Arachne cleared her throat and looked up with hope-filled eyes. Oh, fine. You win. Now listen up. This information is crucial. I will change you into a human long enough to enjoy the festivities, but as soon as the sun rises, you will revert back to your old body. Arachne tilted her head, disappointed. Why only until sunrise? Athena laughed. Because I make the rules, and I said so. Makes it more entertaining. Arachne glared at the goddess. All right, how about this? I turn you into a human for an indefinite amount of time, as long as you don't injure yourself, at which point you'll return to your arachnid shape. Arachne much preferred this offer, and thought it would be rather easier. All she had to do was not get hurt. How hard can that be? Athena kept her promise, and Arachne stumbled towards the villagers, trying to make her two newfound legs work. Hurting herself didn't seem so unlikely now. Arachne tripped over her new foot and rolled down a small slope, bumping into the legs of another woman. Are you okay? The woman offered her hand. You're not hurt, are you? Arachne accepted the hand and got to her feet. She looked herself over and sighed of relief. It seems not. Arachne looked into the eyes of the woman before her and felt her heart beat again, quickening in pace. She placed a hand on her behind, hoping to steady it, but was startled to find it wasn't coming from there. What's wrong? The woman asked, noticing the distraction on Arachne's face. I can't seem to find my heart. She panicked. The woman found the humour in the situation and settled her hand over Arachne's wrist, guiding it to where her heart now sat. The two held one another's hands there for a long moment, whilst the woman asked, Are you a child of Sappho like I am? Arachne shook her head unsure. I'm not familiar with that goddess. The woman laughed. Oh, no, she's not a goddess, she's a poet. My husband and I love her work. I think you might too. I can show you once the festival is over if you'd like. Arachne nodded as the woman slipped her hand in hers, causing Arachne to blush, as the pair made their way down towards the bonfire. If you're enjoying this story so far, please consider checking out my Patreon. The link is down in the description below. For just £1, you can receive my videos a day before they're released publicly. I would really like to see you there and appreciate your support. And in the meantime, let's continue with the story. Arachne had never been this close to fire before. She was mesmerised by it. The bonfire seemed smaller now that Arachne was bigger, but it still looked just as beautiful. Oranges and yellows danced with each other as they painted the darkening sky behind them. The woman led Arachne over to her husband. There you are, Fiona. I was worried you'd miss the fun. He gave his wife a kiss on the cheek before he noticed Arachne. And who is this? I've never seen you here before, have I? Arachne shook her head. No, I'm new here. My name is Arachne. The man prepared to introduce himself, but was interrupted by laughter. The trio turned to the bonfire and looked on as one by one people jumped over it, enjoying themselves. We should do that, Fiona. Her husband grinned. Fiona let go of Arachne's hand, kicked off her shoes, and ran towards the bonfire, looking back to taunt her husband, who chased after her. The crowd applauded as they both made the leap together. Fiona headed back over to Arachne, spinning and laughing all the way. Come on, Arachne, you have to try it. Fiona reached both her hands out to her. Arachne took them, and was so wrapped up in the atmosphere that she forgot she didn't know how to run on these legs. The woman tripped over just inches from the fire. Fiona rushed over to help her up. Anyone would think you'd never walked before, she laughed. You're so clumsy. By this point the sky had darkened so much that it was hard to make out any figures. A villager who had perhaps drunken a little too much ran in Arachne's direction. Fiona got her out of the way just in time, and the villager made the jump. This unbalanced Arachne, however, and she fell backwards. This time the flames licked at her hair, and she looked around screaming. She glimpsed what looked like moonlight reflecting on the river just down the hill. She dropped to the ground and rolled herself down into the water, relieved to have put the fire out just before it had reached her scalp. Fiona and her husband laughed in the distance, but Arachne's relief was short-lived, as she saw a flaming wheel hurtle itself down the hill towards her. The wheel crashed into the water above Arachne's head. The water she hid in grew hot for a moment, until the fire had died down. She pushed herself to the surface and gasped for breath. "It's a shame," Fiona's husband shook his head. "Prometheus goes through all that trouble to bring us fire, and we just roll it into rivers." The wife gave him a look before pulling Arachne out of the water. "Let's get you dried off. You've had quite the adventure." Fiona's husband kissed his wife on the lips, and then looked between her and Arachne. The man smiled and jogged away to give the two women their space. Fiona led Arachne to a spot near a smaller bonfire. Arachne crosses her legs as she let herself be dried by the flames. The woman yawned while she looked on at the crowd in the distance. Fiona's husband was singing and dancing with two men, which made Arachne giggle. The human world was so much better than she had ever expected. She never wanted to leave. As the fire before them crackled with warm gentleness, she turned to Fiona, who was now closer and looking at her with an intensity Arachne didn't quite understand. "You have beautiful lips." Fiona smiled. Arachne touched her lips with two of her fingers. They were a far cry from the fangs that used to sit there. "Dan," she was interrupted by Fiona's placing her lips against hers. The woman scurried back in shock and screamed, leaving Fiona to panic and wince in embarrassment. Arachne noticed this, and her cheeks blushed with guilt. "I'm so sorry. It's just Fiona got up and looked away, shielding her face from view. "Please. You don't need to explain yourself." She hurried away into the dark. Arachne got up to follow her, but she felt so much guilt that it made her stomach ache. She grabbed her gut as she closed her eyes, distressed. When she opened them again, the world had gotten a lot bigger. The spider had followed Fiona to a small abode buried deep within the busy village. She clung to the bottom of the window and used two of her legs to cling on as she peered in at the woman slumped on her bed, her toga draped over the side. She turned to the window as Arachne ducked out of view. "Well, that didn't last long," a voice taunted. Arachne turned her head to the right as she saw Athena standing before her, crossing her arms. "I feel guilty," the Arachnid sighed, turning away. "I warned you not to hurt yourself. It's not my fault you didn't account for emotional pain." Arachne nodded in hesitant agreement. "What she did to me felt..." Athena raised her eyebrow, intrigued. What would follow? "Strange?" she offered. "Good." Arachne tilted her head back with a growl of frustration. "Kissing is meant to feel good between two humans, but I write to remind you, you are not a human. You two never would work out. First, she's too big to eat after mating." The goddess stifled a laugh with her hand. Arachne didn't appreciate the joke. "I have no interest in mating. The kissing of which you speak didn't feel good because it was courting. It felt good because it felt like at last I had made a friend. Now that friend will never want to see me again because I'm hideous." Athena sighed and unfolded her arms. "You're not hideous. None of my children are. Why do you think I created you all to weave such beautiful webs?" She smiled with genuine warmth. "Perhaps your friend will fear you, or perhaps you might not. You'll never know unless you find out." She motioned to the window. Arachne considered this and took in a deep breath. "You're right. Thank you." As she turned to look at the goddess, she found she had already gone. Fiona stared up at the ceiling, lost in her thoughts. She didn't notice when Arachne climbed through the window. The little spider prepared herself to head over, building up courage at a slow pace. When she felt ready, she scurried over to the bed before leaping up to join Fiona. The woman glimpsed a jump in her peripheral vision and turned to see the spider standing before her face. Part of her wanted to scream, but she didn't. She knew the spider somehow. Fiona pushed herself into a sitting position and investigated the spider closely. "Arachne?" she asked, knowing she was right. Arachne bowed her head, embarrassed, but she had no need, for Fiona had forgiven everything. She knew the truth now. She saw a friend as she has always been, and they remained friends until the day came where Arachne closed her eyes for the final time. Thank you for listening to this story. I hope you enjoyed it. For more stories like this, please consider subscribing to my channel. Please consider subscribing to my channel, where I will release more stories like this in the future. This, I have to admit, is my last Classics Retold story. I will be instead moving on to a new venture titled... oh my gosh, I forgot the title of my own story. It will be titled Stories Live Forever, Just Like Me, Jayjay. And it will basically be the same as Classics Retold, but it will be more of a personal account of my experience with these stories. So for more content like that, consider subscribing. Don't forget to like and share and comment, interact with this video if you enjoyed it. And yeah, I'm aiming to receive 100 subscribers before my birthday on the 23rd of August. So subscribing would really help me reach that goal. I managed to reach my last goal, 75 subscribers, just before the end of July, which is my goal for the month. So I'm really happy that I made that goal. And I know that we are going to make 100 by my birthday, so I'm really excited. So as for that, thank you for listening. I will be releasing 3 Under the Queer Umbrella videos this week. I know that's why many of you subscribe, so yeah, we will be continuing the Under the Queer Umbrella series with 3 new videos this week, Aerospec, and 2 weekends, 2 new terms I learned this weekend videos. One for last week, which I missed, and one for this past weekend. And I will also probably be revisiting I Don't Have Phobia at some point, which is another story series on this channel. So yeah, I want to release Under the Queer Umbrella videos and my stories as well, because I really created this channel for my stories, but it kind of shifted into the Under the Queer Umbrellas channel, which I absolutely love, but it's not why I created this channel, and I want to continue telling my stories. So anyway, I've spoken a lot, so thank you for listening. I will see you all in my next video. Thank you for subscribing, donating, sharing, and supporting me on this channel, and I will see you all next time. Bye.